Tim Walz is officially tapped to be the vice presidential nominee for Kamala Harris. So we're going to talk about what that means for the race, why I think that was a bad choice, why a lot of people are trying to jump onto it and make it into a good choice, and where we go from here. Plus, we'll be talking a little bit about polling before we get into that as well, because, hey, if you want a certain outcome, you probably want to make sure that you are out there telling everybody that you know what it is that you believe, why you believe it, and trying to share the news of what you believe there. So we'll go over some of that, what that means, and where I think this actually might be a temporary blip as well. In other news, a major reset hits most of the U.S. markets, and especially hammers the Nikkei 250 market out of Japan. We're going to go over what happened there, the fact that it's rolled back out, some of the conspiracy theories surrounding the fact that it's rolled back out and turned around, and what it's going to do for the rest of the markets coming in as we go. Iran and Israel are getting ready to go back and pop off, which makes me a little bit nervous because the region of Judah and the region of Persia are both explicitly mentioned in the book of Revelation. So we'll go over what's happened there, what happens next, and why it should terrify you that Biden and Harris are both in the briefing room right now. And Jamie Raskin has called and said the quiet part out loud, saying that if Trump is elected, no matter what the margin, no matter how accepted the election results are, that it's Congress's responsibility to block them and then go home and prepare for a civil war. It is going to be all of this and more over here on Contemporary. So strap yourselves in, find some friends, get some people over here, and remember, you can't see the video on Instagram, so get on over to the YouTube or the Twitch because it's going to be wild over there, and I've got some video for this one as well. And the truth is hiding in your eyes and hanging on your tongue, just boiling in my blood. But you think that I can't see the kind of girl that you are, if you're a girl at all. Well, I will figure this one out. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Couple things that were going on about before we get started here tonight. Number one, I don't give a flying fuck about what's happening in the Olympics and what controversy the culture war people are going on about with that one. I am not a culture warrior. I know full well that the Parisians are trying to do this and make these big demonstrations to make sure that everyone looks at this and hears the culture warriors and thinks to themselves, my God, look at how much of assholes these people are, and we don't want to elect any of them, and what's going on, and this and that and the next thing. So I will not be paying any attention to that. Sorry for the inconvenience. This is not going to be the Olympic Update channel or the Olympic Outrage Update channel. Number two, for all of you in the right-wing sphere, I do not believe in blood sports. I do not believe in airing personal grievances, no matter how famous the person is. So the Crowder thing is out. I don't give a fuck. Stephen and Hillary Crowder can sit back and fight over not gay Jared and whose dick is bigger and who divorced who and what else they did for the rest of time. It's not coming on this channel. I don't care. Plain and simple. Don't care. A marriage is ruined. Children's lives are upended forever. Let's have some fun instead. So with that being said, we are going to be talking about a couple things before we get out into the main story of the day, which of course is the Tim Walz tap for the vice presidential nod, and why that's a terrible idea. And by the way, that is about the stupidest thing that the Harris campaign could have done. Now, with that being said, I am amenable, and I'll go over this more when we get to this part of the program, of the fact that, yes, it was probably smart not to pick Josh Shapiro because the Gen Z wing of that party has a major anti-Semitism problem. And putting a Jewish vice president in front of somebody who they're trying to pass off as black but actually isn't black is probably a stupid idea to do. So there is that avenue to things as well, and we'll talk about that as we go. But we got to look at a couple things. First, we've got Brandon Sully 90 joining over on the Instagram side. Welcome in, Brandon. It's been a while since I've seen you. I'm still trying to figure a few things out, but Florida, I would like to at some point be on my future. So, and I want to hang out with you while you're there too, because yeah, that's what's going on there. Let's get Rumble up over here. A couple lurkers over on Rumble. We'll see if somebody wants to come back in and pop in, by the way. That'd be awesome of you if you did. But let's keep that up as we go. And over on the main channel side, Vong has beat Palm. So we've got that going on here. Requires being really quick on the draw. Sometimes I can pull it off. And we've got a robot over on Kick. So you, my friend, let's have vendor. We'll give you 5 minutes. If you want to try to talk after 5 minutes and not try to sell something, go ahead. But we'll just put you in a little timeout here because, yeah, we don't do the advertising thing over here. So we'll excuse me, I got hiccups here. We'll do this good. Palm, by the way, made a fantastic dinner, and I got a couple bites of it before we got to stream. And I will be looking forward to that 8 o'clock hour, or it'll probably be a little bit after 8 o'clock because I got started late to get some more because it was fucking fantastic. And the little bit of it that I did get is going to be nice and warm in my belly. I'm so excited for that. And the little bit I did get is already nice and warm in my belly. And I'm excited for that. So we've got that going on over here. Let's see. Alright, I nuked you. Bot in the kick chat. Got him. He gone. Yeah, we're doing some vehicle shopping, of course. If you tell a girl at all is spicy line, given the recent boxing incident at the... Oh, if you're a girl at all. Yeah, the spicy boxing incident at the Olympics. Yeah, unfortunately, I just paraphrased a Paramore song lyric because it would sound kind of gay coming from me, so... we had the blanket run. Yeah, I saw that. And I think that is it. I think we're all set here right now. So let's go ahead and get started. Thanks again to everybody who comes back and chats in the live chat, because the more you chat, the more we get promoted up to the front page on all the platforms we do. Rumble included, by the way. So if you're lurking and you like what you see on Rumble, come on in and say something. We'd love to have you. You can't crosstalk with everybody else over on the Twitch and the YouTube side, but we still love to have you over here. So definitely come back for that. Anyway, we have done this enough. We have gone through this enough. Let's get started with the news for the night. Because, yeah, I want some more of that pork loin. It was so good. And we're going to start with Debbie. Some live updates from CNN. If you are in the Southeast, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, we probably won't be hearing from our friend Mogwai tonight because of what's going on down there. Do seek shelter. Make sure you are safe. I have not seen what has happened with Florida for this. It looks like it might have either just nicked it or missed it based on what they're showing on the radar here. So we'll be looking at that. I have not been tracking the storm. I will come out fully and admit the fact that I have not. But always, always, always be and stay safe. No reported deaths, injuries in South Carolina as Debbie creeps closer, but catastrophic flooding expected. As Tropical Storm Debbie approaches South Carolina, officials are anticipating more rain and flooding when the slow-moving storm reaches the state. Debbie's moving towards the state at 3 miles an hour with a maximum sustained winds of 40 miles an hour. According to the National Hurricane Center's 5 p.m. advisory, Josh Quagliariello with the National Weather Service said there's likely be a catastrophic flash and urban flooding with a local total of 25 inches of rainfall possible. Rainfall will remain the greatest concern, Quagliariello emphasized on Tuesday. noting rivers will also rise significantly and result in flooding could last long term, cutting off access to some communities. Yeah, we had a fairly intense rainstorm here last night while I was driving back from Eau Claire, actually. It was fun, and I was able to keep both of my important passengers safe, but I did freak out a little bit after I got off the road because some sort of tank had come loose and was in the left-bound lane, and I was in the left-bound lane. I saw the semi in front of us jerk hard to the right. Thankfully, nobody was over in the right lane next to him, and I didn't quite see what it was that he was jerking over for, and then I looked up and there was a goddamn tank in the middle of the left lane. And I was able to get over in time as well, but my life flashed before my eyes on that one. I thought that I had read my last news story at that point. I thought that I was done. And it was leaning over right on my side, too. So, yeah, my goose would have been cooked no fucking... Gee. Yeah, I thought I was toast at that one. Oh, man. But I made it, and the weather was intense, and did some white knuckling for about 40 miles, and after that. But, yeah, everybody got home safe, and we were all good. So, we've got that. Let's see, Deca is lurking, like I do on the stream that Deca moderates for. Although he moderates for this stream, too, so. Speaking of that dinner, Pom needs to get some of it. It's out here, and you can't be seen on the camera to go get it. It's because this closet that I live in, it's like 5 feet over the top of my left-hand screen. He didn't tell me he was freaking out. I told him afterwards he could have pulled off and I would have driven. No. There was no place to pull off. We're in a driving flood on the outside of the windshield. Traffic is already going 40 miles an hour. Alright, anyway. Let's keep going on with this. Coast Guard rescues man in sailing vessel taking on water during tropical storm Debbie. The U.S. Coast Guard in Charleston rescued an 82-year-old man in a disabled sailboat. It's a schooner. During Tropical Storm Debbie, the agency said in a release. Mazel tov for the 82-year-old man being saved, of course. The center of Debbie is now back over water. Radar and satellite imagery show the center of Tropical Storm Debbie is now located just off the coast near the Georgia-South Carolina border, which means it'll probably pick up some strength before it goes back in. A post-hurricane heat wave is the nightmare scenario. Yes, unfortunately, that is correct. Heat index approaches triple digits for tens of thousands without power in Florida. So I guess it did take down some of Florida. I apologize. Again, I have not been tracking this one. Floridians are no strangers to hot, sticky weather, but it's dangerous for the tens of thousands without power and a reliable way to cool off in the wake of Hurricane Debbie. Yeah, I mean, it is America's retirement home, so there's that. More than 90,000 customers are still without power in the state as of Tuesday. According to PowerOutage.us, a majority of these outages are in the northern part of the state, where Debbie made landfall as a Category 1 hurricane on Monday morning. So, it looks like it went right through the panhandle then. So, lots of stuff that happened with this one. I do hope that every Ed head is safe, out of harm's way. If not evacuated, then had the proper preparations taken care of, and I hope that you guys stay through. So we have that. And before I get into talking about Tim Walz, I want to talk a little bit about polling. Because we just looked at this last week, and, well, we've been flooding polling for the past few days since then. The Rasmussen poll, and I believe the daily costs had not been added yet. So, out of 7 polls that have been conducted since we looked at this last, 6 of them have been in favor of Harris, giving Harris now a half-point lead in the aggregate. Remember, I am not a Trump fan. I possibly will vote for him this time through because of how uniquely evil I consider Kamala Harris to be. I'm still not sold on it because I know what comes with it. I know what comes with that presidency. But I might do it just because of the fact that I don't want a career corrupt prosecutor to be my president. With me being a person who has spoken out against said career corrupt prosecutor. I got a feeling under a Kamala Harris presidency, I'm going to get a knock on my door. And there will probably be multiple fully flak-jacketed men with guns when I do. So, I might do it. It's possible, and I don't want to. God, I don't want to. But if you do want a certain outcome, if you want to see Trump win this election, you do have to get out there and get some grassroots on the ground and figure out. So, you do have this working to your advantage right now. The fact that Kamala Harris does not appear to have a platform. Her platform is, I'm not Trump. And she's made that very clear. She's avoided interviews, and the little bit of press briefing that she does give, we've got her coming off and basically laughing off the inflation question. So if you stick to policy and stop talking about her skin color, her DEI status, or the easy low-hanging things, and point out the fact that she has no policy, this could be an easy win. But Americans are stupid. Especially some of the people on the MAGA side of things. And they might not do that. In fact, that they probably won't. Yes, there's a coin from the Bahamas in my bedroom. I've never been there, but it's there. I found it in my nickels, I believe. Let's see. Why does Debbie stink? It's a hurricane, man. Yes. The enjoyers of the program are called the Edheads. So anyway, yes, this is what you have to overcome. Now, keep in mind, and one thing to keep in mind is that in 2016, Donald Trump had never held a lead in the aggregate at anywhere in the election. On the aggregate, Hillary was always ahead, and that was about a half of a point. I don't know what's going to happen in this coming election. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't practice any Santeria or anything like that. I just know that if you want the outcome, you both have to go vote. Don't get blackpilled. This is a no black pill zone over here. Go vote, go make your voice heard, and figure out what you have going on and what you want to see out of this. And try to convince other people of what it is that you want to see off of this. The Mogwai is here and safe. Debbie is doing the Carolinas right now. Well, she didn't do Dallas this time. So yes, this is what we have to see at this point. Now that we're done with the business side of things, let's have some fun. Let's go talk about Tim Walz. From NPC News to start off with tonight. Harris picks Minnesota Governor Tim Walz for running mate. The two-term governor and former House member has gained a notice of folksy rebukes of Trump and support for progressive policies in his state, which is part of the reason that I think this candidacy is dead in the water at this point. From Adam Edelman, Monica Alba, Peter Alexander, Yamish Alcindor, and Gabe Gutierrez. Vice President Harris has selected Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her vice presidential running mate, adding a popular Midwestern state executive to the Democratic ticket as the party gears up to hold on to key northern battleground states this fall. Harris's campaign texted supporters Tuesday morning calling Walz a battle-tested leader with an incredible track record for getting things done in Minnesota families and asking for donations to support a new ticket. In picking Walz, who's in his second term and also served for 12 years in Congress, Harris will have her as her number two someone with a proven track record of winning over white working-class voters in Rust Belt states while also boasting a robustly progressive record. Democrats hope that a mix of attributes help a Harris-Walz ticket shore up support in the one-time blue wall states of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. longtime Democratic strongholds, as the vice presidential at the presidential level that Trump flipped in 2016 and Biden flipped back in 2020. This year, they've been seen as Biden's and now Harris's most viable path to victory. Walz, 60, had initially been viewed as a long shot in the field of vice presidential contenders. I never thought he was a long shot. I still think it's a stupid idea, but I thought that he was up there, and I'll explain why in just a moment. That list included rising party stars, some of whom have been mentioned as future presidential candidates, including Josh Shapiro, who will never be the president of the United States, who praised Walz in a statement that said he's fully committed to electing the Harris-Walz ticket. Now Harris has chosen a governing partner who has learned, in at times, to a folksy Midwestern reputation while also proving to be a reliable attack dog against Trump. Somebody want to nuke that guy? Please and thank you. Oh, the bot got him. Never mind. Walz's experiences earlier in life as a public school teacher and a member of the National Guard could also buttress his ability to speak to different voting blocs, including veterans and organized labor, that Harris will need to win in November. So, that's actually the reason that he's there. It has nothing to do with the color of his skin, his progressive policies. It has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that people are going to look at him and say progressivism is actually going to win, and it's going to win over white working class people right now. The reason Tim Walz is there is because the Democrats made the stupid mistake of alienating the Union in 2016 and prior. That's the reason that they did that. Walz is in there. And the fact that, when Reagan won in 1984, the one state that stood against him was Minnesota. And part of that had to do with its heavy union backing. The union has been invested in Democratic policies and politics since the 60s, and probably before. Possibly it's been since their inception. Now, as far as Walz goes, this was admittedly, this was a good idea as far as if you're coming back to try to win over white working classes and coming in and trying to say, come on, look, we got your union guy here. But this was a stupid fucking move. And I'm going to tell you why. Honestly, Josh Shapiro would have been the best choice policy-wise for Democrats. He was in a must-win state. 100% must-win. And while he is relatively unpopular among a large swath of people in his state, among party loyalists in his state, he is God. Or Yahweh, I guess, in Shapiro's case. So, those are two things that would have been working for him. However, as we know, and I've pointed this out numerous times when they said it's going to be Shapiro, it's going to be Shapiro. It's almost got to be Shapiro. It has to be Shapiro. I am a wrestling fan, by the way. I'll talk to you guys in just a moment about that. As far as Shapiro goes, though, the Democratic Party, in its progressive wing, because of the oppressor-oppressed mentality when it comes to places with a lot of brown people in them, leads them to have a very, very large anti-Semitism problem that's running the Democrat Party. There is no way Gen Z college students would have gone out and voted for a Harris-Shapiro ticket. It would not have happened. Now, as far as Walz goes, and when I say it was a dumb idea, I want to point something out. If you are a Trump loyalist, a MAGA person, or even if you're a DeSantis or Ron Bro, and you want to see Donald Trump get back in, or at least the Harris ticket get destroyed, in any of these situations, this is fantastic news for you. But if you're a Democrat and you want to make sure the evil orange man gets bad, and you don't care that your candidate has no platform, has no plan for what to do with anything else, then your candidate just picked the dumbest person she could have. So, Minnesota brings nothing to the table for Democrats. It brings a lot of union vote and union voice. Yes, it does, and I understand that. It brings a lot of influence that way, but when I hear people like the Hexenhammer say that Minnesota was in play, it wasn't. There is enough inner city, enough union, enough Democrat union loyalists. I know a lot of them switched over to Trump, but there's enough Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul, enough of that kind of thing, even down into a Red Wing area like that, to sway the voting in the rest of the state one way or the other. Minnesota was never in play, which means you are grabbing a governor from a state that was already going to vote blue. I had said if I wanted to be a Democrat or a Democrat advisor or anything else like that, it should have been Beshear. Andy Beshear out of Kentucky. A actually relatively popular Democrat governor in a very, very right-leaning state that has 2 Republican senators. A Democrat who can actually come back and get elected in a statewide race where both of your senators and most of your representatives are Republicans. That would have been the choice to have right there, and that could have brought in the hometown loyalty of Andy Beshear. And yeah, if you're a MAGA person, Harris just gave you the best gift that she could give you. Well, the second best. We know how she got to the top of politics. She just gave you the second best gift that she could possibly give you by pulling Walz, who brings nothing out to the table out of all of this, except maybe a couple of union votes. But you've lost a lot of them anyway, with a famous quote of a large-eared mulatto gentleman who said, "Oh, those jobs? We don't want you to have those jobs. Get rid of those jobs. They're not coming back. We have new jobs for you. Those other ones, they're not coming back. Okay. What does Trump think he can bring those jobs back? What magic wand does he have that he thinks he can?" And then of course he went back and brought all those jobs back. So we have that. So a bunch of things going on with Walz. I think this is going to backfire, but I also understand the fact of why they needed to go back and get a white blue state governor. All right, let's check a couple things at all. Let's see what we have here. Looks like we've had some good chat going. I'm still thinking Shapiros are related. Who, Ben and Josh? I don't think so. Vance is not likable. Walz might be a response to Vance too, because Vance is an on-the-ground union guy. So they can come in and say that they have the union thing going on, but they can also hide him in the basement, which is one of the things that they should be doing. He should not be allowed to be talking right now, because he does say stupid shit. I will admit to that. Long says, here's the question about Trump. Would you rather have a president who's motivated by the same things as the rest of us, making money, taking care of his family, or someone who's only motivated to gain more and more power? I'd rather have no president. That's my druthers. My thing is I cannot. For being a cop, I would actively vote against a cop for president. Actively. And I don't say that very often. I swore last election I was never going to vote against again. And then they put Kamala Harris up at the front. Grant said Reagan also lost D.C. Oh, I suppose he did, didn't he? But they don't have electoral votes, so who cares? Mark says, Ed is a Chris Jericho fan because he's breaking the walls down. I thought about using that as my lyrics for the day, but I didn't know if that one would be recognizable. If I use the Paramore song, that's at least recognizable to people. And I love that song too, by the way. Grant says, do you think Tim Walz will help or hurt in Wisconsin? That is actually about a 50-50 game, honestly. I think there are situations that he will help with. I just don't know that it's going to be enough to do anything. I think there are situations he's going to hurt in. but I don't know if it's going to be enough to overcome the ballot stuffing and the Madison vote. I think Wisconsin is blue this time through. I think that one is going that direction. Because it's a statewide race and our decisions get made by Madison and Milwaukee. Palm says, I think Walz wouldn't help in rural Wisconsin. Right, but that's not who makes our decisions. Would Walz help in Wisconsin overall? It's possible. Tell Trump, the walls are closing in. Yes, mac and cheese and ice cream. Luke Wee is here. Got to listen live. Well, you can always also go and take the Spotify link and come back and hang out after the fact. I always appreciate that if you guys go and take the Spotify link. And do go check out my interview with Chris Lokes from a couple weeks ago. That's up there now. I'm working on scheduling some more interviews like that. It's a process, and scheduling interviews has always been a process. That's part of the reason I don't do Ed Talk anymore. Thing about Trump is that because he cares about many of the same things as the rest of us, he can be swayed by an appeal to those goals. Kamala, given her motivations, can only be swayed by offering a way to acquire more power. Mark says, I think Kelly out of Arizona would have been the smarter choice. See, I don't know that Kelly would have been that smart of a choice either, because there's so much roiling controversy over the way the electoral vote goes in Arizona, and that might drive a vote against campaign for a key swing state. I see where you're going with that, and I understand, but I don't know that that's entirely accurate either. Don't worry, MAGA people. Lindsey Graham's always saying stupid things to overshadow Vance. The Mogwai, everyone. Let's keep going. From The Economist, why Harris picked Tim Walz as her running mate. Ken Martin, this one's paywalled. Fuck The Economist. Okay, we got more stuff we can do. From the Daily Wire, which, by the way, apparently Matt Walsh went undercover in a program called Am I Racist? That's going to be in theatrical release in 8 days. I don't know that I could pay money to go see a Daily Wire production in a theater. I don't pay money for the Daily Wire to go watch their cringy shows. I'm sure as hell not going to go into a theater for it. Ben Shapiro celebrates after Harris reportedly makes VP pick. Massive gift to the Republicans from Zach Jewell. And that's one of the things I want to point out too. And I've seen Tampon Tim going around X right now trying to make fun of him for giving away free tampons in some place or another, or free school lunches, or free this, or free that, or free a bunch of other things with this. And they're trying to make Republicans out to look like the bad guys because they're bringing up these bad policies. Republicans, MAGA people, GOP, America Firsters, I give you a little bit of free advice. Stop interrupting your enemies when they're doing something fucking stupid. Let them do this. This is the dumbest political move I've seen in a while. Let them do it. Please. Encourage them. Ben Shapiro responded Tuesday to Vice Presidential Harris, reportedly tapping Democratic Governor Tim Walz as a running mate, calling the decision a massive gift to Republicans. Do I have video of this, or do I have to read this in Ben voice? Let me refresh this and see if I have video for it. I don't have video for this, so I gotta read this in Ben voice. Shapiro celebrated Harris's choice, calling Walz a radical leftist who has, gang, a long history of insane statements. He also argued that selecting Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro would have made more political sense. That's the Jews working together. But since he's Jewish, tapping the Pennsylvania governor would have enraged the anti-Israel segment of the Democratic Party. Picking Walz is a massive gift to Republicans. He's a radical leftist from a non-swing state with a long history of insane statements who presided over the burning down of his state in 2020. Kamala picked him because he's not a Jew and she's too online, Shapiro wrote on X. Yeah, I haven't seen it for today yet. The Daily Wire host added in a follow-up post rather. As someone who wants Kamala to lose, okay, gang, picking Walz is wonderful. It's political malpractice. Why? Okay, number 1, gang, not from a swing state. Number 2, radical underscoring of her radicalism. And 3, she rejected Shapiro, and he put that in the triple parentheses for those of you listening on the audio platform, to please the pro-Hamas caucus. She's not competent, and this pick shows it. Okay, gang? Harris is a full-scale radical. Okay, gang, remember, Walz is Bernie Sanders from Minnesota, Shapiro said on his show, which aired live following reports of Harris's VP pick. He is a radical leftist. Okay, gang, just a radical leftist. It is so mind-boggling stupidly. And that's why I'm so excited about it, gang. So, Ben Shapiro's fawning over this, and I kind of am as well. Alright, what else do we have here? Why didn't Kamala go with a Clinton? Hey, you remember that song that the little person was singing about Mary's Little Lamb? In this case, Kamala would be Mary's Little Lamb in that song. Grant says supposedly they shied away from Kelly because of his ties to China. China. Mog says, you joke, but I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing Chelsea Clinton soon. Grant says supposedly they picked Walz because 1, he's not a Jew, and B, they were worried Shapiro might outshine Harris. It's also fair, by the way. I watched Ben's show today. I'm very sorry for you for that. He was excited that they went away from the Jew, proving the Democrats are the real anti-Semites. The Democrats are the real racists. Long says, what's your beef with Vance? I think he's great. I think he's middling. Myself. Is Shapiro just jealous because of the lack of Jewish representation? Possibly. Yeah, that was very, very funny to come back and listen to. We're not mad at you for the song. We're mad at you because of the way that the education system works. And their no-gun policies. Mock says, is this worse than when the Republicans entered Dan Quayle in the DC spelling bee? Or letting Dick Cheyenne raffle off hunting trips? Possible. 100 messages today, you guys, already. Awesome. Thank you. Chick, chick, bam. No more lamb. From the Daily Wire, Josh Shapiro and other VP contenders react to Harris-Walz ticket from Daniel Chayton. They still get their Jew representation in Harris's husband. Not quite. The Democrats, who did not make the cut in the Veep stakes, spoke out on Tuesday after VP Harris picked Tim Walz to be her running mate. Walz edged out Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, Senator Mark Kelly, Chairman Mark Kelly, by the way, and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg to join Harris's ticket. Walz and Shapiro were reportedly the final 2 frontrunners. In a lengthy statement, Shapiro said he had the opportunity to speak to the vice president about her vision for the role and the campaign ahead, and noting the choice of running mate was a deeply personal decision for himself and Harris. Shapiro said he still has work to do while serving as Pennsylvania's governor. Yeah, that's what they always say. Oh, I'm so honored that I was in the running. I didn't get picked, but it's okay because I have so much more to do in my home state. Beshear said on X that it was an honor to be considered in the process Walz is a great friend and a great choice, Bashir said, adding that he fully supports the ticket and will work to get Harris elected as president. Kelly said Harris and Walz are going to move us forward and are already building a campaign to unify our country. Kelly added that he and his wife Gabby Giffords are ready to do everything that we can to help them win. Of course it's Gabby Giffords. Why would it be anybody else? Alright, let's see. Yeah, Mog, I want to hear where your issue is with Vance. I'm open about that. I've worn that one on my sleeve. Butt judge. Yup. Grant says Harris should have picked Ben Shapiro. Why not at this point? Grant says Butt Judge was disappointed when he learned about the types of trains he was inspecting. No. No. Bad. Bad. You gotta put that image in my mind. Bad. Politico, 55 things to know about Tim Walz. Kamala Harris is picked for VP. We're not going to go through all 55 of them. 1. He was born in West Point, Nebraska, a town of just 3,500 people. No one cares. But was raised in an even smaller town called Butte. No, I know it's actually Butte. But it looks like Butte. 2. Walz graduated from Butte High School in 1982. I came from a town of 424 kids in a class, 12 cousins, farming, those types of things. Why do I feel like it was more like 12 cousins fucking? Walz credits his rural upbringing for his values. Oh yeah, his socialism, his intent to take money from other people by force and give it to people rather than people sharing and sharing alike, as they should. So do I, actually. I did, actually. Not do. I haven't talked to her in quite a while. Sully says, I'll try to catch up later. About to hit a motorcycle ride for some dinner. Nice. Thanks, Sully. Walz enlisted in the National Guard. In his state capital office, Walz displays hundreds of challenge coins that he's traded and collected for years around the world. Yeah, I don't care about any of this. He speaks Mandarin. Okay. He spent a year teaching in China. Yeah. Fuzzy softball bullshit. And that's what it is. The Krappensteins, who I'm sure already had their scripts written up before they found out about Tim Walz. A few things to know about Tim Walz, the possible future vice president of the U.S. Born in Nebraska, married with 2 children, command sergeant major in the National Guard. Give me a second. Hey, that's E9. He went 24 years and only got to E9? Jeez. Okay. High school teacher and football coach, 6-term U.S. representative. So, teachers union shill. Got it. The Randy Weingarten ticket. Moderate Democrat. That is bullshit. Known for his ability to work across the aisle, Walz has a reputation for bipartisan collaboration with Minnesota Republicans. Pro-business, false. Pro-balanced budget, false. Pro-farmer. So, yeah, the lies are already out there. with Politico with an op-ed that they're putting out as actual news. The next great liberal boogeyman, Tim Walz. Once again, stop interrupting them when they're making mistakes. From Lisa Kaczynski, Natalie Allison, and Meredith McGraw. Republicans are racing to define Tim Walz as the next liberal boogeyman, hoping to capitalize on voters' unfamiliarity with Vice President Harris's new running mate before Democrats can introduce him to the country. What unfamiliarity? He hit the national stage as soon as the St. George riots started. We all know who he is. He's a moron, he's an asshole, and he sucks at his job. Let's see. In a bit, the vice presidents are going to fade into the background. Anyway, it'll be about the top person on the ticket. Monk says, I'm not a fan of Vance. I honestly think he's not likable and will drag Trump down. I think Old Post will be his undoing. Also, he's from Ohio. That is false. There is no Ohio. Grant says, don't shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism, another person's neighborliness. Tim Walz. Can you find me that quote and DM me on Discord? Like, actually a source that he quoted that? Or is that somebody attributing something to him? E9, yes, military. Long says, here's the thing, Vance is riotously funny to the kind of people Trump needs to increase his vote share with. The kind of people who hate him are already long past the point of no return. Grant says, Tim Walz apparently quit the military when his unit was going to be deployed to the Middle East. Yeah, put that in the Discord too, by the way. Put all the stupid shit in the Discord. Let's see what we got. We've got a video. I'd rather you do it in this, by the way, for people who are new to the Discord or the crowd. I'd rather you get in the Discord if you want to show me a video or something and put it in there because I can kind of vet what it is. Grant I know and trust, and I know he won't try to drop the channel down, but when people just throw a song or something else from YouTube, a link in the chat, half the time it's just a big self-promo somewhere, and we don't do that here. Unless I know you, and then I promote you anyway.
But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. But
yeah, we'll keep that one handy. Because a lot of people are on X right now if you call them a communist or socialist. Source? Source? Like talking to a fucking seal. E9 is a rank in the military, yes. Alright, what else do we have? He was reduced to Master Sergeant. Nice. In addition to quitting his unit before it was deployed, apparently he also voted to send more troops. Haven't verified though. Because he left the military before his 2 years of service post-command, Sergeant Major School were finished. Ah! Well, that's gotta suck. I still can't believe he went 24 years and only hit E9. If you're going to be there for that long, you might want to actually stick it out and go to officer school. Why is my OBS always popping over to middle screen lately? That's weird. Why does it keep defaulting over there? I don't know. Alright, oh. Well, we've got one from our friends over at NPR. Talking about one of the things that I brought forward for the reason that he got tapped, and that is, of course, 4 reasons Why labor unions love Tim Walz. And remember, NPR is only 10% government funded, and they need our money, comrade, to make sure that they can continue to tell you that every progressive is the top of the line and needs to be elected for every office, and anybody who is to the right of Mao is inherently evil. So hit that donate button. NPR is never printing reality. National Progressive Radio. Let's see what they have to say. Labor advocates could not be happier about Vice President Harris's pick of Tim Walz. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers noted that Walz, a former teacher, understands the struggle of working people. The AFL-CIO hailed the governor as a principled fighter and a labor champion. The Service Employees International Union pointed to what it called the Minnesota's Miracle, a sweeping package of pro-worker laws passed by the state's Democratic legislature last year and signed into law by Walz. Boy, that doesn't sound bipartisan, does it? He's a former union member who shows up at picket lines. Which is hilarious because unless he is only going to private sector unions, the people that are picketing against him. He's the government. Oh, that's fucking hilarious. Minnesota workers have said paid sick days and will soon have paid family and medical leave, which you can get in the private sector almost anywhere right now. Uber and Lyft drivers get a minimum wage, and Amazon warehouse workers get extra health and safety protections. This year, Minnesota became the first state to establish a minimum wage for Uber and Lyft drivers, whose median hourly wage was well below minimum wage. Walz signed into law a bill that was 2 years in the making, overcoming fierce opposition from rideshare companies. Didn't they pull out of Minnesota too? I don't know if that's the truth or not, but I thought that I heard that somewhere, that they pulled out of Minnesota because of that. New non-competes are unenforceable in Minnesota. Minnesota joined other states in 23 making new non-compete agreements unenforceable. Those are employment contracts that prevent workers from going to work for a competing business or starting one of their own. I actually agree with that myself. I mean, you voluntarily sign into a contract, but I do agree that if you have a better idea, you should be able to go back and put it out into the world. So, we have that. They are independent contractors, and under most states, they don't fall under minimum wage laws, but with Minnesota doing whatever they can to try to unionize them and force them to be employees, then they can bypass some of that. So that's what we have going on there. So there's your Tim Walz news. Almost an hour in, just talking about that. And now we've got a host of other things to talk about here. The Dow. I haven't done this segment in quite a while, by the way. I used to do this every morning, first thing. We'd look at what the Dow was for the day before. On a morning show, it's a little bit more feasible. On a night show, not so much. Because the Dow is finished for the day. I can't do anything. Link it in the Discord. Dow plunges more than 1,000 points amid fears of a U.S. economic slowdown. Now, it was back up, but it wasn't back up no 1,000 points, I can tell you that. We'll look at the chart for the day as well. From Amy Pitchy. Stocks in the U.S. plunged for the third consecutive trading day, with the Dow tumbling more than 1,000 points amid growing fears of an economic downturn sparked by a slowdown in hiring and consumer spending. The S&P slid 160 points, or 3%, to 5186 on Monday, the indice's biggest one-day drop in nearly 2 years, according to FactSet. The tech-heavy Nasdaq sank 3.4% as investors fled some of the big tech players that until recently had powered the U.S. market higher. Apple shed 4.8%, while Meta and Nvidia fell 2.5% and 6.4% respectively. The Dow tumbled 1,034 points, shedding 2.6% of its value. Earlier in the day, it had lost more than 1,200 points, but markets regained some of their early losses as Wall Street digested Monday's data from the Institute for Supply Management Services Index, which showed that service employment picked up in July. The details of the ISM report were encouraging, with business activity, new order, and employment all rebounding markedly in July. Oxford Economics said in a Monday research note, the report aligns with our view of an economy in transition rather than one on the brink of collapse, which is propaganda, of course. Even with Monday's rout, U.S. stocks still remain positive territory for the year. The S&P has gained 9.4% in 2024, even after including its recent slide, where the Dow remains up by 2.6%. So, a few things that drove this down. Number one, we are getting to a point where we cannot mask the economy anymore. It is a gaping wound. And families are feeling the push and feeling the pinch. There is a town north of here that I go to regularly. For doxing purposes, I'm not going to reveal any details beyond that, but I go there regularly. Regularly enough that I can tell which real estate signs are new and which ones have been there for a while. And that's the problem, is that every time I go there, there's at least one new one, and the ones that are there aren't moving. Now, this is not an ideal town for a lot of reasons, based on the fact that unless you work for one of the two factories that are in the town, or you happen to be a trucker, or you happen to like working at a Quick Trip, there's really no place for you to go to work, and the big major markets are at least an hour away. It's kind of centrally located between the two big major markets that have a massive commute to them. But yes, new for sale sign every single day. And the ones that happen there very rarely move. A couple of them have moved, I'll admit, but it's very, very rare to see them move at all. So those prices are going to start dropping until people actually come back and pick them up. And I haven't looked at the town that I'm looking at moving into right now, but I know that the last time I looked there were a couple down there that were down in the 5-figure range. So a lot of that is driving things, the housing market as well with that. And yes, the fact that people have lost their jobs enough that we had a 0.3% uptick in unemployment, which doesn't seem like a lot, but over 300 million people, that's a lot of people losing their jobs. With the growth only spanning 117,000 over 180,000. With the Biden admin, they've got a lot of rich friends. They can come back in and say, go scoop up these stocks as fast as you can. We need to win an election. Go buy back your stocks if you have to, or have your employees go back in, or do stock option, do something to get these bought and get the valuation up, because we need to have 40,000 Dow come election day. And I think that's where some of the bounce was today. What we need to see is if this is a blip on the radar or a long-term trend, of course. So we have about 0.75% upward on the day today. 300 points after 2 full days of 1,000 point plus drop. Let's grab the 5-day. We'll look out and see what. Yeah, you can see where it came back out and tanked, and where it was just a few days ago. So they haven't made up shit right now. And Japan's Nikkei index was even worse than this. Looking at the Bitcoin price, in case you're interested in Bitcoin, it's on sale. It's doing a little bit better than it was a couple days ago. Now sitting over at $56,465 US dollars and 30 US cents per coin. That is up 2,422.20 per coin, or about 5% on the day to day. But once it's below that 60 grand mark, it's still considered on sale to me. I won't start buying until it's below 50 grand. But I'm starting to eye it up and put my wallets back in order so I can buy some more. Linked in the daily wire piece. I've got the full webpage saved along with a full letter. Put it in Discord, man. That's the best place to reach out to me. Yep, we've got it there. We'll probably talk about that a bit more next week, because I'm already full up at this point. Now, if you are banking on what it is that we just saw in the markets, I would say don't, but don't take my word for it. This is not official financial advice, but we will read what IBD, which can be construed as official advice, has to say about it. On the futures, market rallies begin. NVIDIA partners Super Micro falls late. From Ed Carson, Dow futures fell modestly after hours, along with the S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures. AI play Supermicro computer tumbled late in earnings miss and weak guidance. The market rebounded Tuesday after several days of sharp losses. Despite a late fade, NVIDIA and Meta led mega caps, while Mercado Libre broke out and AI play Palantir gapped up on earnings. But it's just day one of a market rally attempt. I don't know where it's going to go with that either. That's the problem. Because there are a lot of rich people that can just go and start buying stocks if they need to. On the futures, the Dow fell 0.25%, and we're only about 3 hours. Well, this was written at 5:30, so about a half hour after the markets closed. The S&P lost 0.4, the NASDAQ retreated 0.6. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular market session. So we've got some earnings down, we've got some jobs data down, and none of this is looking good for a lot of people right now. A lot of people were blaming this crash on Harris, and I don't know that that's entirely accurate either. It's a lot of Biden policy that's coming home to roost, and the fact that they can't sit back and hide it anymore. But I don't know that this is a Harris drop. This is an op-ed from the Post editorial board. The opinions expressed in this article are not necessarily the opinions of the New York Post, J. Edgar, or Contemporary. The Biden-Harris market crash shows they set not just the world on fire, but the economy on fire. Trump's not reaching when he calls the stock market bloodbath a Kamala crash. Biden's economic policies are sure to continue in the event of a Harris victory, plus Biden and Kamala stumbling and bumbling on the world stage have turned out to be a deadly combination. What touched off the panic? One spark, a major whiff of U.S. labor market numbers. The July jobs report showed the U.S. added just 114,000 jobs in July, well below expectations, and the unemployment rate climbed to a 3-year high of 4.3. And that's after downward revisions for June, May, April, and March. In other words, the July numbers isn't just a blip, but a flowering of an ugly friend. And suggests the July number may get chopped too. That news fanned long smoldering fears of a U.S. recession, blowing the knees out from whatever exuberance was keeping stocks at historic highs. The bottom's dropping out, and no one knows how far to fall. Note that Harris is fully on board the war on carbon fuels that will leave the nation unable to power AI computers, which also seem like kind of a meme and just a short blip that isn't making money that they hoped it would, which have been central driver of the stock market optimism. The other part of the story, of course, is the massive debt-fueled Biden-Harris government spending that was keeping the economy in high gear. Democrats have normalized $7 trillion a year in federal outlays, with $2 trillion of it borrowed, all to keep their core constituencies fat and happy. No wrong opinion given yet at this point. That triggered soaring inflation, which obliged the Fed to spike interest rates, still making it risky for the Fed to start easing up, even as it's killing the job market. Yeah, we're gonna need to be a lot lower before the Fed rate comes down. There's no way. It might stay up through a Trump presidency. I don't think he's going to let it stay up in the sevens range. I think he'll try to get him to get it down to 4.5, but it might stay up there just for that. Even the Daily Wire calling it the Harris stock market crash, which I don't see it as. CNN, Japanese stocks rebound from the worst crash since '87, while global markets are mixed. So we have seen some rebound at this point, but nowhere near what they lost in the last few days. Let's grab one from Forbes and one from NPC News. Then we get to move on to foreign policy. Isn't that fun? Kamala crash. Trump tries to pin stock market downturn on Harris, from Sarah Dorn. Trump blamed the global stock market decline on Harris's candidacy in a series of Truth Social posts, branding the sell-off as the Kamala crash, continuing his pattern of taking credit for positive shifts in the market and blaming the Biden-Harris admin for signs of economic downturns, with no evidence to support his claims. With CNBC being the follow-up. And the last story we have on the crash: Trump quiet on markets after stock rebound robs him of Kamala crash attack line. It still probably is. There was a level of uncertainty that came with that. But when you've got friends in such high places, hey, don't worry about the losses. We'll figure that out on the government end. From Rebecca Picciotto. Harris, former president, for using the market's global sell-off as an opportunity to attack Harris, Trump and his Republican allies were noticeably quieter on Tuesday as stocks gained back some of their losses. The S&P closed just over 1% higher after it lost 3.5%, while the Dow was up nearly 300 points, or 0.8% higher after losing 2.5%. So, and they don't talk about the NASDAQ here either. But you should be watching and seeing where your money goes, definitely. Alright, Iran. Pakistani man with ties to Iran charged in foiled assassination plot potentially targeting Trump, DOJ says. From Louis Cassiano. A Pakistani man with ties to the Iranian government sought to carry out a political assassination in the U.S., a case that was investigated weeks before a gunman tried to kill former President Trump at a Pennsylvania rally. Asif Merchant, 46, traveled to New York City and worked with a hitman to carry out the assassinations in late August or early September, federal prosecutors said in a court complaint. The complaint says the plot was intended to target high-ranking U.S. officials, including Trump. Fortunately, the assassins Merchant allegedly tried to hire were undercover FBI agents. Surprise, surprise there. An acting Assistant Director Christy Curtis of the FBI New York field office said, "This case underscores the dedication and formidable efforts of our agents and analysts and prosecutors in New York, Houston, and Dallas. Their success in neutralizing this threat not only prevented a tragic outcome, but also reaffirms the FBI's commitment to protecting the nation and its citizens from both domestic and international threats." So we had that over here. But we also have tensions going off against Israel and Iran, or Judah and Persia, if you prefer Old Biblical. From the times of Israel, U.S. deploys fighter jets to the Middle East base ready for an Iran attack, from the Associated Press. About a dozen FA-18s from the USS Theodore Roosevelt have flown to a military base in the Middle East as part of the Pentagon's efforts to help defend Israel from possible attacks by Iran and its proxies, and to safeguard the U.S. troops, according to U.S. official. The FA-18s and an E-2D Hawkeye surveillance unit took off from the carrier in the Gulf of Oman. Oh man. And arrived at the undisclosed base on Monday, officials said. Lloyd Austin ordered the increased military presence in the region as officials worry about escalating violence in the Middle East in the wake of the killings last week of a senior Hezbollah commander in Lebanon and Hamas top political leader in Iran in suspected Israeli strikes. Both groups are backed by Iran. Iran so far away, couldn't get away. The Navy jet's land-based deployment is expected to be temporary because a squadron of Air Force F-22s is en route to the same base from their home station in Alaska. The roughly dozen F-22s are expected to arrive in the Middle East in the coming days, say the official. So, whatever happens with this one, we're going to be all in for it. From Axios, Biden briefed that Iran attack timing and details are still unclear, U.S. officials say. So according to our intelligence, which is an oxymoron in and of itself, it's about to go down. From Barack Ravid. Biden and Harris were told by the National Security team on Monday that it's still unclear when Iran and Hezbollah are likely to launch an attack against Israel, and what specifically the attack might entail, 3 U.S. officials told Axios. Biden admin officials say they're working to prepare for countering the possible attacks and mobilizing diplomatic pressure on Iran and Hezbollah to try to minimize their retaliation for the assassination attempts by Israel of Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran and Hezbollah's top military commander in Beirut. The Secretary of State Blinken told his G7 counterparts on Sunday that Iran and Hezbollah could attack Israel as soon as the next 24 to 48 hours, Axios reported. But in the meeting Biden and Harris had with the National Security Council in the Situation Room on Monday, the assessment was more nuanced, U.S. officials said. The official said Biden and Harris were told U.S. intelligence expects a scenario involving 2 waves of attacks, one from Hezbollah and one from Iran and several of its other proxies. But it was still unclear to U.S. intelligence officials who was going to attack first and what kind of attack they're going to conduct, officials said. One official said intelligence indicates the response by Iran and Hezbollah is still a work in progress and both are undecided about what exactly they want to do. So, we're going to watch. Hopefully they don't sit back and do it like a month and a half later like they did the last time. U.S. and allies prepared to defend Israel as Netanyahu says it's already in a multi-front war with Iran. So it's going to be your kids that are out there going back and doing this, of course. From Natalie Melzer and Sami Magdi. Israel's already in a multi-front war with Iran and its proxies, Netanyahu said in a cabinet meeting on Sunday, as the U.S. and allies prepare to defend Iran from the expected counterstrike and prevent an even more destructive regional conflict. Tensions have soared from nearly 10 months of war in Gaza and the killing last week of a senior Hezbollah commander in Lebanon and Hamas's top political leader in Iran. Iran and its allies blamed Israel and threatened retaliation. Hamas says it has begun discussions on choosing a new leader. So, not just us, all the G7s. A second Iranian attack on Israel would likely dwarf its first. From Paul Iden, briefly on this one. Iran has repeatedly vowed it would attack Israel in response to its assassination of a political leader in Tehran on July 31st. Its main proxy, Hezbollah in Lebanon, has also vowed to join Iran and avenge Israel's striking of one of its most senior commanders, Fouad Shukr, in Beirut the day before. Well, if you don't want your people to get hit, quit leaving them out. That would be my advice. If Iran and its allies want to show Israel killings have a cost, they will likely try to catch Israel's defenses off guard or even overwhelm them, suggesting an even larger and more dangerous confrontation than their April barrier. So, we'll see what happens there. So, that is what we have going on across the sea. I hope we survive this whole thing. Alright, from DNC, we move on to the NABG conference, where Trump sat and addressed a room full of black journalists. And apparently it didn't go over really well, even though the McCarthys of the world are trying to tell us it went great. Let's have a listen first. Yamiche Alcindor from Al Sharpton's show. Follow continues from Trump's panel at the NABG conference.
Former President.
We're only going to listen to a part of this, by the way. It's a 9-minute clip. I'm not going to do the whole thing.
Donald Trump appeared at the National Association of Black Journalists annual convention in Chicago earlier this week. Our own Yamiche Alcindor witnessed the event in person from the hotel conference room where it all unfolded. Yamiche, I must start with all the many falsehoods that Trump made during the 35-minute NABJ panel. There are so many of them, and unfortunately, we don't have that much time to dive into each one. So here is a list made up with the help of the Washington Post, and even we couldn't even fit all the lies in one graphic. Trump claimed nobody was charged for deaths in the Black Lives Matter protest. Not true. He said he saved historically black colleges and universities. Not true. He said he is the best president for black Americans since Abraham Lincoln. Really? That there is an invasion of 15, 16, 7 million people coming across the border. Absolutely not true. That Kamala Harris, was the border czar. She is not. Many migrants are coming from mental institutions, he says. They are not. The crime rate of other countries is going down. It is not. The U.S. is having its worst inflation in 100 years. Not true. Biden was ruled incompetent in his presidential records case. He was not. Democrats allowed the killing of babies after being born. Come on now, are you for real? And there's more. All
right, so I can't listen to Al Sharpton anymore, sorry. From the Associated Press, also deep in the left-wing tank after Trump's appearance, the nation's largest gathering of black journalists gets back to business. From Gary Fields and Cheyenne Mumphrey. A day after Trump's contentious interview at the National Association of Black Journalists conference, the organization was back to business as usual. Thousands of journalists spoke with recruiters or networked at the career fair. Meeting rooms overflowed with attendees listening on panel discussions on career growth and industry changes, including conversations about the artificial intelligence and new considerations in criminal justice coverage. Many passed by the people at the Dow Jones desk to congratulate them on the Wall Street Journal colleague Evan Gershkovich released from prison in Russia and a massive prisoner swap deal. We'll be talking about that a little bit later. But members of the nation's largest group for black journalists were still grappling with attention creating by Trump's Wednesday interview, which he made false claims about Harris and repeatedly insulted ABC News' correspondent Rachel Scott after she asked him a tough question about his past attacks on black people. Fred Sweets, the contributing editor at the St. Louis American and former Associated Press photographer, said Thursday the Republican ex-president's interviews raised an age-old question for the group's membership. Are we black first or are we journalists? Well, if you're black first, I apologize because the system has failed you. And you should be looking beyond your race, as always. He made news both ways. He made news, but that works both ways, said Sweets, who was in the initial meetings to form NABG a half a century ago. He sunk his ship as far as I could see, but for his followers, he was a hero. Sweets said he would like to have heard the questions asking Trump's interpretation of the amendment passed in the aftermath of the Civil War, since he believes ostensibly in the Constitution. He would also been asked about the Central Park Five, Black and Latino men wrongfully convicted in beating the rape of a white female jogger. Trump famously took out a newspaper ad in '89 after attack calling for their executions. They were later exonerated. So, I know a lot of people want to make this about his past comments on black people and nothing about the present because they have nothing out of the present. And lastly on this one, where's my music, by the way? No, I've got two more on this one. McCarthy. An ABJ interview showed a great thing about Trump. From Yash Roy. Former Speaker McCarthy was not sure whether former President Trump was going to end his interview with the National Association for Black Journalists, but by the end of it, he believed the combative interview highlighted great things about the former president. Well, at first, I don't know where you're going, but when you sit and look at it, Kamala was invited too, and she didn't show because she would have had to answer actual questions. But he'll go anywhere, McCarthy said in an interview with Fox News' Jesse Waters. And the great thing about Trump is that he's the same person in the front that he is behind, and he'll tell it exactly how he sees it and exactly how he feels it. Which we need more of that. We just don't need the ones that are that bad with money. Trump stirred up controversy during the Times' combative NABJ interview on Wednesday when he attacked the ABC's Rachel Scott as nasty and horrible after she repeated racist statements he'd made in the past about people of color. Trump also sparked intense backlash by questioning the race of his Democratic rival, Vice President Harris, saying she's only promoted her Indian heritage in the past. Harris is the first female vice president, as well as the first Black American and Indian American vice president, except she's not black. So, Harris said she was unable to attend due to a scheduling issue and asked the NABJ if she could address virtually or send a surrogate. The association rejected both ideas. Once again, we need to have the carefully curated segment, and she can't actually live go out and speak in front of these people. So, we have that. And Harris Faulkner, before we head out of here, Harris Faulkner says many black journalists, conference audience were glad that Trump attended. From Zach Jewell. Listen.
What the nation has seen is this incredible buildup with journalists here reportedly upset because Donald Trump was coming. Some of them, and some of them we really hadn't heard from. So what I loved about what you couldn't see today was how much of that audience was enjoying the moment of hearing from a candidate that they might not always agree with. And that is the whole point. That is the growth of journalism, to be able to listen and question those things that you may not know about because you don't often talk to that person or those people. That was the goal here. So for all of that pushback, young journalists that I'm talking to after the event are saying, well, we're glad he's here.
And they're glad he's here. But the MSM will never tell you that. All right, let's move back to the Kamala campaign as we go. Jane Addams, Kamala's plan to fix inflation. This is terrifying.
What else are you going to do to fix this problem with inflation?
All right, thank you. Well, let's start with this. Prices have gone up, and families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more. And we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up. That's about having to stress and stretch limited resources. That's about a source of stress for families that is not only economic, but is on a daily level, something that is a heavy weight to carry. So it is something that we take very seriously, very seriously. And we know from the history of this issue in the United States that when you see these prices go up, it has a direct impact on the quality of life for all people in our country. So it's a big issue, and we take it seriously. And it is a priority, therefore.
The plan to fix inflation is apparently to just talk about inflation over and over again. We might be fucked. It might be over at this point. On the rent side, the Biden-Harris plan to lower your rent will actually inflate it because rent controls always push the price up. From Mark Jameson. Oh, this is an exclusive one. What the fuck? Alright, we'll skip that one. Stop hiding the exclusive along with the regular articles. Alright, from the New York Post, racist remarks from black activists tied to Harris could spell trouble for Dem ticket. Fuck white women. A pair of black female activists who met with Vice President Harris several times previously vowed to get real serious about helping her become the next president could alienate some of the white women for Kamala. Supporters with their past rhetoric as they mobilize ahead of November's election. Cora Berry, an appointee of Democrat D.C. Mayor Bowser, and longtime civil rights activist, and Melanie Campbell, who leads the National Convention on Black Civic Participation, have visited the White House more than 50 times combined during the Biden admin, including nearly a dozen visits with Harris or her staff. Fox Digital Review found. Weeks before Biden and Harris were sworn into office in 2021, Berry and Campbell participated in a public Zoom call in which they made controversial statements about Trump and his supporters and used an expletive against white voters, specifically white women, which could cause some internal clashes at different coalitions they managed to get Harris into at the White House. Approximately 164,000 white women hopped on a Zoom call last week, which was organized by Moms Demand Action founder Shannon Watts and other female celebrities. The call, titled White Women Answer the Call, reportedly raised millions of dollars for Harris' campaign and would be a major fundraising force for the next few months. However, the unearthed comments from the two activists should cause some internal tensions for the Harris campaign, as they both look to mobilize several different voting blocks and have called for unity. Wow, I'm getting tongue-tied over here. And I've still got a half hour to go. But of course, it's different with the circle around to the D. And what is oddly the weirdest story that I've heard all week? RFK Jr. admits to dumping bear carcass in New York Central Park. From Phil McCausland. Long story short on this one. Now, he was coming in intending to eat the entire animal, so I can't entirely fault him on this, but this is just bizarre. And apparently he and his buddies went out hunting and they got a bear and he put it in his trunk. And then he had to go to the airport for a few days, so he has this bear rotting in his trunk. And he turns around and goes and buries it in Central Park. And then puts a bike next to it because they've had so much trouble with bike gangs at the time that he was doing this. Yes, I'm serious too, by the way. It's wild. From Phil McCausland. RFK Jr. has recounted how he dumped the dead bear cub in New York Central Park in 2014. A clip posted on X account on Sunday shows the independent presidential candidate describing to Roseanne Barr the incident that mystified New Yorkers 10 years ago. Mr. Kennedy said a woman had killed the bear with their car while he was driving outside the city, and he put it in his van with the intention of harvesting its meat. That was what it was. It wasn't him and his buddies went and shot the thing. It's that it got hit by a car. According to the New Yorker, Mr. Kennedy was tickled by the discovery of the bear while headed to the falconry outing in the Hudson Valley. An image included in the article shows Kennedy grimacing with his hand inside the bear's mouth after he loaded the carcass in the back of the car. The magazine quoted an anonymous source saying that Kennedy thought it would be funny to make it look like an errant cyclist he had killed it. So he did it, he tried to cover it up, and nobody's saying a word of it because this dude is not viable. Just get off the ticket at this point. Or have Christy Noem be your press secretary, one of the two. There's my cursor. On the White House coke, Secret Service says it disposed of cocaine found at White House after reporting infighting DNA hit. From Stephen Nelson. The Secret Service said on Monday it disposed of cocaine found last year at the White House, responding to a report about alleged infighting on its fate following a partial DNA match. The evidence from that investigation was disposed of in accordance with retention policies. Secret Service spokesman Anthony Guglielmi said in an email, "Boy, sure sounds like they're trying to cover something up here. I don't know whose coke it was, but I have an idea." Some more video for you. Jamie Raskin, Dems in Congress will have to disqualify Trump and block him if he wins in November. From Virginia Cruta. Jamie Raskin said the quiet part out loud in a recently resurfaced video, suggesting that Democrats in Congress might move to block the results of 2024 if former President Trump were to win the election. Let's listen.
What can be put into the Constitution can slip away from you very quickly. And the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so,
mind you, the person they're trying to disqualify has never been convicted of insurrection. Therefore, it's legal to hold that office.
they want to kick it to Congress, so it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025 to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody in Civil War conditions, all because the 9 justices, not all of them, but these justices who have not many cases to look at every year, not that much work to do, a huge staff, great protection, simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the great 14th Amendment means. And I'm glad that Sherilyn's creating her new center so we can bring that.
Great protection, huh? Wasn't it one of yours that was caught trying to shoot Brett Kavanaugh? Great protection. Fuck off. All right. From the USA Today, Trump reignites tensions with Governor Kemp. Bad guy and disloyal, from Ken Tran. I think that this guy is trying to lose at this point. For his faults, Brian Kemp is a very, very popular governor. Do I like everything he does? No, he's government. Do I think a lot of MAGA people like him? Yes. Do I think a lot of Georgia people like him? Yes. Former President Trump tore into Brian Kemp on Saturday, claiming the federal Republican was hurt his re-election campaign in the Peach State. Trump also criticized Kemp for not helping his efforts to overturn the election. He's a bad guy. He's a disloyal guy. He's a very average governor, Trump said at a campaign rally in Atlanta, along with Secretary of State Raffensperger, another Republican who resisted Trump's efforts to overturn the loss to President Biden in the state. Little Brian Kemp, Trump called the governor. Trump's attacks reignited tension between him and Georgia Republicans. The former president lost the state narrowly in 2020 and heavily pressured Kemp and Raffensperger to reverse his defeat. Trump was indicted last year by an Atlanta grand jury for his attempt to overturn the election. But never convicted, of course, again. Because we just send people to trial without a conviction at this point. On the flip side of that interaction, from the Daily Wire, Georgia activist steals spotlight at Trump rally, rips Harris for hurting the black community. From Tim Pierce. A black Georgia activist became the center of attention at a rally for former President Trump on Saturday when she riled up the crowd in support of Trump and how his policies benefit black Americans.
To get in your feelings about things that have been said, but I want you guys to pay attention to what has been done. They don't want to talk policy. They just want to use propaganda to steal your vote. The left is trying to tout this woman as a savior for the black community, but all she's done is hurt the black community since she came into the game. See, the first step in destroying the black community is to dismantle the black family. So aside from her record as a prosecutor, why don't we ask Mrs. Willie Brown if Kamala Harris cares about black families? I wonder if Mrs. Willie Brown, a black woman, is also with her. A few days ago, President Trump said he didn't know Vice President Harris was a black woman. I'm trying to figure out what all the outrage is about because she's only black when it's time to get elected. Did I lie? The same black people who are mad at Trump for being confused about her race, ethnicity, nationality, whatever, are seemingly forgetting that while you're touting her as a savior for black people, she identifies as an Asian woman. She chose her side and it wasn't ours. When asked if she would ever do anything specifically for black people, she said no. Whereas Trump gave us the Platinum Plan, which specifically uplifted the black community by increasing capital by almost $500 billion, creating 500,000 new black businesses, and would give black churches the ability to fight for federal resources for their communities.
Well, I would like to listen to more of her, of course. But I don't think in public is going to be the right way to do this. And I mean, she's right about a lot of this as well. And what I've been proud of with the mainstream media and even independent media is this has not been a lot of trying to defend Trump or everything. The Democrats are running away from Harris's record. Plain and simple. Outright and open. And Republicans, if they want to win, have to go back and pursue that and follow that. And point it all out. Alright, and the last one that I have for regular news today comes to us from... I'll do the CNBC one on this one. I got a couple. Elon Musk will interview Trump. On Monday night, Republican presidential nominee says, from Dan Mangan. Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump said he'll be interviewed Monday by Elon Musk, the billionaire who runs Tesla and SpaceX. The former president's planned talk with Musk comes on the heels of the Democratic presidential nominee and Vice President Harris selecting Tim Walz as her running mate. It also follows the disclosure of probes of a Trump-supporting political action committee that Musk says he created. On Monday, I'll be doing a major interview with Elon Musk. Details to follow, Trump wrote on Truth Social. So, if you want to watch that, it's probably going to be on Spaces. So, and nowhere else, so you have to get on X and go get a space. Because that's just a way for Elon to go back and sell tickets, I guess, or something, or other. Alright. And that is our news for the day. But of course, we always close out with something a little bit more lighthearted, but also some things that I like and some things that I hate. Alright, things that I like today. Wait, before we do that, we've got a rule to talk about. No, that's not what I want. I want this, you fucker. So before we do the things I like and things that I hate, I sit down and I read over one of the rules of acquisition from the Ferengi religion. I read one of these every week. I explain how it was used in canon, if applicable, and how it can be used in real life. Last week we looked at my second favorite one, of course, Greed is Eternal, and now we move on because in canon and beta canon there were no 11th or 12th to the 13th. One of the reasons that I want to go and license myself for wine and spirits. I can do a lot of the stuff for myself and just go back and drink that and get hammered 24/7. I'm very good at that. Ask the people who knew me in my 20s. I'm very good at that. But realistically, if you're going to be making a product, you should be able to sell it as well. And that leads to the 13th rule of acquisition from a DS9 novel, The Legend of the Ferengi. Anything worth doing is worth doing for profit. They say money on the website. It's for profit. Self-explanatory. If you love to do something, it's unique, and you can find a way to market it out to people, yes, you should be doing it for money. Plain and simple. It's part of the reason that I want to keep all these bottles here, even once they've aged and gone up a little bit. I give a bunch out as samples right now, but I do want to keep a fair amount, more than I will probably drink in a short amount of time, because, well, they'll age, and alcohol never goes bad. And alternatively on that, if the market goes bad, my stuff's going to be a lot cheaper than the stuff in stores, and it'll get you trash probably twice as fast. So I'll be marketing for that. I have to have a license, of course, to distribute alcohol. So I need to go back and fix that. But other than that, I think it'll be good. So there you go. Anything that's worth doing is worth doing for profit. Now let's do some things I like and some things that I hate. Thing I like, number one today, you guys probably already saw the teaser for this one as we go. But I looked into the US version of Top Gear again. Because there's a certain episode I'm probably going to watch with Palm tonight to see if she can guess who the mystery celebrity is. That's the episode I'm going to do with tonight. But following the success of everything that we saw go on with Top Gear in the UK, which is a funny show, I will come back and fully out admit. The History Channel tried to make Lightning Strike twice with a short-lived, but also very entertaining, I will admit, rendition in the US. 5 seasons on the History Channel, which was good, featuring race car driver Tanner Faust, comedian Adam Ferrara, and NASCAR statistician Rutledge Wood. It was a fun show. They had a lot of fun with it. There was a lot of stuff to learn about the cars and the culture around the cars especially. They focused it less on the mechanical aspect and more on the culture around the cars, which I thought was a lot of fun. They had a lot of great episodes, and we found out that none of them can drive a big rig either throughout the course of the series. So, I bring you the trailer to History Channel's Top Gear United States Edition. Official series trailer. Let's watch. Tanner Faust. The driver. Rutledge Wood. The expert. Adam Ferrara. The Wrecker. was a very, very fun series. I'll come back out and say there was a lot of contrast between the three as well. And, you know, for a car guy like me, and I understand where there's differences with car guys and everything else. And I had a couple friends, too, when I lived down in Kenosha, where we just kind of seemed to represent these three. And a very, very differentiation of the things that we look for. Tanner being a race car driver, being used to small, compact, and fast. Typically picked that for his vehicles for whatever they were testing for the week. Ferrara being a New Yorker, a little bit older than the other two. Seemed to tend towards big and comfortable vehicles, and Rutledge always had something really quirky and weird. But it was always, you know, the difference between the two, and they could all three make whatever it was that they were working on work as well. So, yeah. If you haven't checked it out yet, it's on Amazon. You can get it. You have to buy it. Unfortunately, you can't go and get it streaming somewhere, but it's a fantastic program. Even if you're not automotive oriented, it's a lot of fun. I think a lot of you guys would enjoy that, especially if you follow my content and have known me for quite a while. Other thing that I like this week, a remake. I forget if I did this one or not. And I've only seen a little bit of it because I keep falling asleep during the episodes because I keep trying to watch them after 11 o'clock at night. But one of my favorites for situational comedy, Frasier, got a reboot last year, in which Frasier goes back to Boston. He goes back and goes to his old stomping grounds. His kid lives in Boston, his kid lived in Boston before, but chose not to go down the intellectual path, instead going down a more middle-of-the-road path, bringing up some of the same controversies, the same disagreements, and the same tensions that Frasier Crane had with his own father, a run-of-the-mill police officer, versus his own high society stylings. So, and I appreciate the fact that a lot of it was there. I'm going to go back again and watch the stuff and try to stay awake for it, of course, but let's watch the trailer for that one as well.
What is it about the city of Boston that leads me to forego the more sophisticated temptation of the fermented grape? Sitting here with a cold brew in my hand, I feel amalgamated with the hoi polloi.
You are the classic everyman.
Freddie! Surprise!
Dad! You're at my door, unannounced.
No, there's a shorter way to say that. Surprise!
What's going on with your son?
Wish I knew. He's got a girlfriend I've never even heard of. When I told him I wanted to spend more time with him, he said no.
It's just not a good time. Have you considered that he hates you?
I miss you, and I won't take no for an answer. So I've taken a job, and I found a place to live.
My dad, he can be kind of...
He smelled really good.
Yeah, he always smells really good.
Don't sit there! Those are Christian Lacroix pillows.
So we can't sit on the couch.
Not in jeans.
Hey, baby, I hear the blues are calling for salads and scrambled eggs.
What do you say we have a toast?
I got some scotch, if that sounds good.
Great, I'll go get it.
Top shelf.
Of course, nothing less.
No, it's on the top shelf of the hutch. Green plastic jug.
But I don't know what to do with those tossed salads and scrambled eggs.
Today I'm spending time with my son, colleagues, and friends. For the first time in my life, I can say that Frasier Crane wants for nothing.
Oh, that's too bad. I had somebody that I wanted to set you up with.
I can be ready in 5 minutes.
And another staple of that, of course, is the struggles of dating into your middle to late years. So, if you've got Paramount Plus, you can check it out. I know they're running it over on CBS as well, so go and do that one. Alright, let's do some things that I hate, and there are a bunch of them. But they're all stacked up into neat little categories as well, so that'll make it easier. Excuse me. From Fox 5 DC, NFL will implement new facial recognition for working staff in stadiums. From Sylvia Mofofi, I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm sorry. This upcoming season, the NFL will be rolling out a new facial recognition that will be used for individuals with working credentials and other stadium staff, according to NFL officials. Many thoughts there's a new program for 24 that doesn't apply to or affect fans. We'll talk about that in a moment. It was tested last season on 6 stadiums. This is only for individuals with working credentials, team, and game day personnel, vendors, and media. These people have already submitted their photo as part of the probably the hiring process. So this is a facial recognition technology that is meant to go and check, I believe, to make sure the employees are working, not sitting in the stands and goofing off. So they'll use their facial recognition as they scan the crowds to see if anybody is in there is an employee. Fox 4 out of KDFW, Dallas-Fort Worth, even taking this a step further, saying no, the NFL is using facial recognition to monitor fans, from Steve Dial, calling it misinformation and the larger conversation about false information and influencing what people think about sensitive topics. Telling you outright that you're paranoid if you think this is going to be used against you as a fan. And what I have to say to that, of course, is you're lying to yourself if you don't believe this is going to be used against the American people. You're outright, flat out lying to yourself. Now, yes, this will first be only used for the working staff to make sure they're not fucking off in the stands, to make sure they can go out and find them in the crowd, in the sea of things, and make sure that they're out not doing things that they're not supposed to be and just enjoying the game. But the technology is already there, ripe for the taking from the government. And it's only a quick little step to start implementing a felony checker or a YouTuber checker or things like that to go along with this, as they're already scanning the faces of the people out there trying to find the employees that are fucking off. And I won't be going to an NFL stadium until they get rid of this. I don't care how much I love the Packers. That's not going to happen, because what starts there as an innocent way to track hours and monitor time theft can be used at the moment's notice by a rogue government to go back and do other things. So, nope. I don't care how it's going to be used. I care about how it could be used in the future. It's the same as what I call the government listening advice. Your Alexa, which I don't use, or the Google speaker, which is used in households that I'm in, but I do not use personally. I won't even say anything to wake the fucking thing up, because I call that the government listening device. Now, it has to be always on and listening for you to say those words, whichever ones that light it up, which means it can hear everything else that you're saying. With the fact that with the way our federal legal structure is done and the laws are written, most of us commit 3 felonies a day and don't even think about it or know it. So they'll always have something on you if they want to, and if they hear you bad-mouthing the regime or anything else, then they'll come back and say, oh, well, this person was a dangerous terrorist, so we had to go back and do that. Nope, not for me. Other things that I hate. I don't know why this became a story. I don't. And I called the New York Times out on this in the X that announced the story. This is a non-story. Doug Emhoff, who was caught apparently cheating on his first wife with a nanny and got the nanny pregnant like 20 years ago, is being thrust in the spotlight because he's, of course, married to Kamala Harris. So this needs to be a big deal. And what I'm going to tell you right now is, no, it doesn't. In fact, I would almost say that this reeks of desperation at this point. It shows, even though there are plenty of ways to discredit Kamala Harris's credibility just by herself. She's a corrupt prosecutor. She had evidence. She kept people in jail for cheap prison labor. There's a litany of things. You can't find her senatorial record because she barely voted on anything. There is a litany of things that you could go back to after Harris about. What her husband did in a previous marriage is between him and the nanny and the ex-wife. It has no bearing on the U.S. citizenry in and of itself. He acknowledged it on video too. Let's watch.
CNN exclusively obtained a statement from Doug Emhoff about that affair. Of course, this was after alleged details of that relationship were published by a British tabloid. And in his statement, he says, quote, "During my first marriage, Kirsten and I went through some tough times on account of my actions. I took responsibility, and in the years since, we worked through things as a family and have come out stronger on the other side." Now, that British tabloid, the Daily Mail, had reported that Emhoff had a relationship with his then young daughter's teacher, which resulted in the end of his first marriage.
The Daily Mail, by the way, is not a British tabloid. It is a reported, respected journalistic entry.
Now, 4 years ago, sources tell us this came up in the vetting process for President Biden. He was searching for his running mate and considering Vice President Kamala Harris. We're also told that this relationship ended years before he started dating his now wife, the Vice President Kamala Harris, and that he was also told her about it before they got married. Now, we should also note that we did get a statement from his ex-wife, and in that statement today, she says that he is a great father to our kids, continues to be a great friend, and she goes on to say that she's proud of the warm and supported blended family Doug, Kamala, and I have built together. And on that front, we should note that his ex-wife has supported and defended the vice president in recent days, and that too, the second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, has been on the campaign trail and increasing the pace of his fundraising and campaigning.
He may have.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't matter. Most people in Congress have bastards outside of their wedlocks. And probably some abortions here and there as well. Our Congress people, our president, are not our moral leaders. And Kamala, again, has done well more than enough to discredit herself on the national stage. Other things that I hate, the Rittenhouse thing. Kyle Rittenhouse came out over the weekend saying that he was going to be writing in Ron Paul based on Trump's stance with the Second Amendment, which is, by the way, probably a very decent stance to stand on at this point. And then Cat Turd went out and got his supporters in behind him and went after the poor kid. And then he came back and said, "Oh no, I'm changing my mind. I'm going to vote for Trump. I had a talk with this team and they convinced me that he's going to be great on the Second Amendment this time around." Yeah. Take the guns and do the due process later. That guy is going to be great on guns. But here's why I hate this. And this is the thing. The first problem I have is that Kyle Rittenhouse should have been out of the public eye 2 weeks after his trial was over. There is no reason for that. For him to even be discussed in family households. People should be asking who when they talk about Kyle Rittenhouse. It was an intense time. He got it on camera. And we all supported the fact because the left was trying to railroad him. But once that was over, he should have been done. And every once in a while, our leftoid friends will come back out and say, here's this controversy that has to do with Kyle Rittenhouse. What do you guys think about it? And he'll be back in the news and back famous again. And the second thing I hate about this, of course, is, you know, the paid shills were coming out and saying, oh, well, Kyle doesn't even support Trump, so why would you support Trump? Look, I'm going to tell you right off the bat. There is no celebrity out there who could get me to change my vote. And I haven't even decided who I'm going to vote for yet, but it would never be involved in what a celebrity thinks. Kind of reminds me of some stuff in high school where, you know, people would say, oh, you better do this or you better do that, or that person you have a crush on won't like you, so go back and do this, or act like this, or be a monkey for a treat, or be this or be that. And it's just, no, why would you do that? I have, and it's notable. It's gone off since she's been married because, well, she's very happy with her husband, and I don't begrudge any of them of that. But I had a massive crush on Ashley Tisdale for a number of years. I know Ashley Tisdale votes differently than me, but nothing that she could come back out and say would change that. Period. Nothing. Zero. I did not get a date with Ashley Tisdale because of the way that I voted or the political opinions I had, I didn't get a date with Ashley Tisdale because I look like this. And I'm not bloated, filthy fucking rich. And the third problem that I have with this is, again, this kid should have been left alone, out of the public eye to begin with. I don't know why people felt the need to come back out and hammer on this kid over what his thoughts were, but it's worthless. Oh, we've got some discording going on. No plans in the chat. Alright. The other thing that I did kind of like this about this. So, the Page shills and Richard and Ojeda, the second, is a very, very much a Page shill. This is, if I believe... No, he's a talk show host. I thought he was a congressional candidate at some point because he has For America in him. But this was Trump's, and he put the R capitalized so it could be rump, you know, haha. Response after Kyle Rittenhouse says he doesn't support Trump anymore. Question: if now all of a sudden Kyle Rittenhouse murdered 2 people, then why did Trump support him in the first place? Oh yeah, he was white. The post purportedly says, sad to see Kyle Rittenhouse, who I supported after he murdered more people than me, literally, has gone woke and didn't vote for me. If it were up to me, he'd be in jail. Ungrateful. This country needs loyalty, not betrayal. Make America great again. Except it got community noted because it was a fucking lie that he posted that. Readers added context to this image. Donald Trump did not post this. It was a digitally altered image. So, they lied. Their entire campaign on that was a lie. And they got caught with it too. A couple more, and then we're out of here. Kamala Harris, the code switcher. This one was a bit funny. Just like the lady was talking about in the other article where Kamala Harris acts black when she has an election to win, she turns black suddenly, magically. Well, she did the code switch thing in a rally in Atlanta, in Midtown Atlanta, right away. And even this sounded forced and fake, like pretty much everything else that she says.
And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024. We're going to do it again. Yes, we will. So let's get right. And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024. Yes, we will.
You're from Oakland, and from what I understand, an affluent neighborhood in Oakland as well. And then not only that, not only is Harris that white already, but they decided to go put her into a high-end private high school in Canada after all this. So they moved from Oakland to Canada to finish out her high school and then moved her back to Oakland. And here she is, Indian and Asian as ever, trying to tell all these people that she's as black as they are. I'm going to skip this one. That one sucked. I think we talked about this last week, but of course, they've got the No Kings Act to make a congressional bill, which would probably require an amendment at this point, to overcome the Supreme Court ruling that presidents could enjoy some immunity for certain things as long as the judge says it's done in an official act. You know, not the presidents can do whatever they say and say, I declare an official act. And then it's an official act. Couple more here. Candace Buer who got all offended like she was supposed to over the Last Supper imagery from the Parisian Olympics, got called out by Jodie Sweetin, little Stephanie Tanner, for being offended by it. Sweetin reportedly saying, "Tell me you don't know about art or history," Sweetin wrote in a July 29th Instagram story per E! News, "without telling me you don't know anything about art or history." I hate this on all ends. Number one, Jodie Sweetin has no idea what was going on with that display at the Olympics. She knows what her left-wing talking points tell her to know, and doesn't know a goddamn thing else. But also, Candace Bure is in a similar boat at the same point here, because the reason that they did the Last Supper thing is so people like that would get offended and talk about it, and then they can point and say, "Look at that backwoods there suspender snapper, and how anti-gay he is and everything else, and he's a meanie, and we gotta do stuff about him, and we can't let that person vote because that person hates democracy," and all the other stupid bullshit that they do. Don't fall for this crap. It's garbage and you know it. And you know what? I'm not going to do the, quote, weird stuff either. But Democrats have come out and just decided to be school kids. Oh, don't vote for those people. They're weird. But the last one, and actually decent reporting from Libs of TikTok for once. They've been going into the toilet lately. Reminding you that Call of Duty won't let you set FJB, LGB, FKH as your clan tag because of profanity. But it will let you put FDT. Because Activision is clearly biased in one direction. It makes me feel dirty for buying Diablo 2 Resurrected. But you knew stuff like this was going to be coming too. I wonder if you can do that in, like if I can make a game called FJB in Diablo 2 Resurrected. I'm going to try that after stream. I'm going to see if I can do that or not. Make a game, let other people in, call it FJB, and see if they'll let me do that. Because Blizzard is Activision at this point. But it's just, the thing that bothers me about that is Activision suddenly has a problem with profanity. The few times that I have played Call of Duty, because I've done it before, I don't care for it, I don't care for first-person shooters, but the few times that I played Call of Duty, I've seen the N-word more than I've seen it in my Discord server, with an avowed racist in there with me. So, why Activision is suddenly concerned about online racism, I don't know. I don't know if they took N-word Killer 321 off of their server at some point, or K-word Hater 420 off there at some point. Godspeed to those gentlemen, wherever they are at this point. But FJB is a step too far, of course. I was getting tired there at the end. I don't know if my caffeine is wearing off or what my story is with this here, but I was getting tired. Apologize for that too, because of course I do try to give you the best possible product there is. And I will, of course, be getting the audio platform at least out tonight. The video platform, probably not until the morning. I'll see if I can get it out there tonight. But yeah, it was awesome. The walls were closing in. We got a bunch of people in and chatting. We hit 100 messages. And I know we were on the YouTube front page briefly, because I saw a few new people pop in there as well. So, where's my outro music? Steven, I lost your outro music. Where'd it go? There it goes. Alright, we've got some crossing over music, and I know that makes Vong's ears cringe. But with that, we're out of here for the night. Thanks so much for coming out and hanging out and chatting and making your voice heard in what we have going on here. I know a lot of people wanted to talk about Walz, And that's where we were at the top of the show, where we were talking about that as well. So thank you again. Audio platform will be on Podbean tonight, so go back and check that out. Thanks everybody who went back and checked out my interview with Chris. If you have not yet, go to my Podbean or on Spotify. It will be right there. Go back and have a listen to that. And we'll be back here next week for more news, more headlines, more contemporary. I know we'll be talking about Tim Walz leaving his unit, because I've got a couple of people talking about that over in the Discord that I want to make sure that I get back in and talk about. So we've got that. We've got some stuff up in general, so that'll be out here. And yeah, do go and tell me what it is that you guys think about Tim Walz over in the Discord or over on X, that is JEdgar101, and the Discord link has been cycling through chat or is in the description all through the show, so thank you for that. Take care, have a good night. We'll see you here next time for more news, more headlines, more contemporary. Diablo 2 Resurrected, probably the second to last episode next week. I've already done some experimenting, trying to make sure that I get the setup going so I can play some Mario RPG for you guys in a couple weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Fallout Fridays always continues. We're back in the Commonwealth, starting to look at the end game, so that'll be fun as well. Take care, have a good night. We'll see you here next time for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And until next time, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.